We have one coming in. Can you hear me fine? Yeah, can you hear me now? Good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 16th. The time is 6:01, and the City of Williston City Council has come to order. Miss Stacy, would you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Goodman,
I am here.
Council President Michael Cox,
Here.
Vice President Darkness Hines is absent. Councilmember Meredith Martin, here. Councilmember Alexa Riccio, here. Councilmember Deborah Jones,
Here.
City Manager Terry Brevard,
Here.
Attorney Kristen Ballou, here. City Clerk Latricia Wright, here. And all other staff.
All right, opening prayer and pledge of allegiance by Mayor Goodman.
Join me if you will. Well, Lord, we're together again. And Lord, I ask you to be with each one of these council members to help them to fully understand the implications of everything that they do and to give them the wisdom to make the choices that they feel are best for our city. And Lord, I ask you to be with each person here and to give them safety as they return to their homes. And Lord, I ask you to be with the police department, who every day risk their lives, never knowing if they will come home at the end of the shift. And I ask you to be with the fire department, and Lord, all of the city staff and the city workers that work so hard to try to keep our municipality running as smoothly as possible. I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
All right. Item 1, addition, deletions, changes, and approval of the agenda. As for approval from the council.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Okay. Can I get a second?
A second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4-0. Item 2, public participation. This is your first 2 opportunities to address the council. At this time, anyone in the audience can come to the podium and speak for 5 minutes on any topic other than what's on the agenda. Okay, sir. You'll please state your name and your residence, and just a reminder, the council does not need to have a comment.
Mark Firestone, Williston. 2 things. One is I attended the 2 Levy County meetings regarding flooding this past Friday. One was in Bronson, one was right here in Williston. Let me state one thing real quick before I say what I was going to say about that. I consider this body City of Williston, and not anything personal with anybody. Nothing I say is personal. I speak to the City of Williston as a city council group and as a administrative body. Also, just so you know, those people who have day jobs, know that I will have the utmost respect for your day job, and I will not hold you hostage at your day job about items that we discuss here. Just want to let you guys know that we're neighbors. But I was a little dismayed that no one from the city of Williston, administrative body or council, attended either of those meetings. I had occasion to talk to a John McDonald, who's the director of the emergency services here in Levy County, and one of the things that he told me was that there are several different programs that the city of Williston can avail itself of for state and federal funding for flooding and drainage issues. And I would urge everyone here to contact him, go to the meetings, and find out what can be done to keep the drainage issues apace with the building that's going on in this town. I spoke last meeting 2 weeks ago about this, so everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then as far as that goes, I did ask last meeting for the ability for the city to get a civil engineer out to look at 5th Place, 4th Street, 7th Street, 4th Avenue, that whole neighborhood there, to figure out what can be done there to alleviate what's going on. Just wanted to know if there's an update. Thanks.
Well, I can tell you that this for the city council, so they're aware that, myself and the council president did meet with McMillan Survey. We had a discussion about the project. Whether or not there will be an engineering study done or not, I have no idea. We're still looking into it, and as it stands right now, it pretty much is as it is.
Yeah, that's what we had met, like City Manager Brevard said, with McMillan Survey, and then met with him with that. So it was informative, what he said. So we're just going from there. No, sir. The meeting.
It wasn't a public meeting.
No.
It was just the three of them. You don't have to record those meetings. Nobody said that. That's not what I heard Mr. Brevard say.
No.
And I would just comment that I don't go. Yeah, you need to go back over here if you're going to talk. I don't go to county flood meetings because they're pertaining to the county, not the city. Totally different meeting. That's why we didn't attend. It was you went because you're in the city, but the meeting that they had planned had to do with flooding in the county. That's why the county emergency management director was there.
Okay, as far as it just being a county meeting, not necessarily true, and they were very interested in hearing about anything and everything in every area of Levy County that is impacting flood issues right now. So it was actually a good opportunity for people from municipalities to participate as well. So, and it's, there it is.
Mr. President, if I may, we did have a representative at those meetings.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Please state your name, your residency.
Bernard, Florida. To the city manager, the AR bill. Community garden, addressing the 700% increase on our water bill, even when we're not using it. We haven't heard anything about it yet, and we're 501c3, not in business.
Do you like me to address that?
I would hope you would.
Yeah, so I will. I will tell you that still it's on the agenda, that we're working on it. I would tell you that our fiscal director basically wants numbers sent to him to make sure that what new numbers that we may be proposing for the rate changes will keep the city where it's not operating at a loss. You being a 501c3 has no bearing on your water bill. I probably for the council, I would be more than happy to provide them with everything that we provided you over there in a dollar figure. So it's not like the city hasn't done something. We most certainly have. And so in the sense of giving you a break on the water or whatever we can do, unfortunately, the new ordinance does not allow me to do that. It does allow me to adjust the rates. Unfortunately, I can't do that until the finance director says, okay, Terry, these are the rates you want to go to, and those rates are sustainable to run the city. Did you attend the workshop last time, the budget workshop?
No, I didn't.
So I would suggest maybe also attending a budget workshop. They would give you an idea of the financial situation the city's in, and they would explain to you why I'm so cautious about adjusting rates.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but it's like, I'm sure the people around Wilson, it's kind of hard to feel to swallow when
I don't disagree one bit. I can tell you that, I have my mind where I want these rates to go. I've been informed by, not to bring her into the fray here, but I've been informed by the city attorney that rates are one of the things that I can change by ordinance, that is actually in that ordinance, and we are absolutely working on it. The question is, how low can I go and still sustain the city water supply? The rate structures where we can still operate the city water. And these people, my staff, they all know that my minimum goal is to make sure that these enterprise funds operate at least at a sustainability level. And we're constantly pushing for that. It's not to pile a whole bunch of money in the city. We simply don't have it. And the city council in the past has done a journeyman's job of trying to keep the rates here as low as they can. And unfortunately, sir, I don't have 12 to 15 years of rate increase, gradual increases to do what I want to do in the city to make the water capabilities any better than what they are. Most people, everybody knows it. The minute we fix one leak, another one pops right up. And we're there fixing that. I mean, it's a constant challenge. We have lines dating, from the 70s, and we hit them all the time not knowing where they're at and wonder where they're coming from or where they're going. The city police department, not to drag the chief in here, he's got a serious plumbing problem over there that we're trying to work on. And I don't know how much money that's going to cost. But I simply, and I know I'm getting around to your question, but I just kind of want everybody to know really the kind of what we're dealing with here. That, if I had several $1 million in the bank, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I'm still working on it, sir. I'm telling you right now, I am, and I'm waiting for the fiscal director. I've got over my legal hurdle. There's like steps in going through the process. As soon as I get the numbers to Stephen, who's our fiscal guy, Stephen Bloom, he'll tell me, okay, Terry, you're right on the money. We can do this, and we're not going to bankrupt the water utility.
Mr. Bernard, can you turn this down just a hair? Can you tell me how much your water bill was? Just your water portion of your bill?
I don't know. But I know.
And what your consumption was? I mean, those are the two issues that, I can pull your bill.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah. It was $80-something. I don't know what.
I started saying if it was $10 before and now it's $70, that's the $700 increase. But I mean, a 700% increase,
Right.
But it's still only $70.
Yeah, it's $70 increase for a meter. That's at time was no water usage at that time, and a meter that was donated
By
to
us.
not by you, not by you,
Yeah.
not by the city.
We're the one who got it donated for you, yes.
Well, it was from
a company
it
that
was
owned
from
the
a
meter,
company, yeah.
but we asked them to donate it for you, yes.
Mr. Barber.
So the original meter that was donated was in fact donated by Neptune. It was a representative, but the meter that they donated within 3 months went bad, and they would not replace it. So the city then did purchase a second meter. I know that because I installed it personally. Also, the tap on the main and the week's worth of work to run the pipe, also done by the city at no charge, including all the materials. So I just want to clarify that. We did start all of that for free, and I personally installed it. So it was done at the cost of the city.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Item 3. Mr. Fuller. Please state your name, sir, where you're from, resident.
I'm Albert Fuller, City of Williston. I just wanted to say that Mr. Bernard may have made a mistake there. The water has never gone over minimum. What we're talking about is a meter charge. It has nothing to do with the amount of water consumption.
Base rate.
And so the issue is the meter and not necessarily the consumption of water.
All right. Item 3, consent agenda. This is the council meeting minutes from July 2nd, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
All right. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4-0. Okay. Updates. Staff and board and councils. Mr. Brevard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just go over a couple things real quick. So later on during his staff update, Jonathan will tell you about the potholes that we've had repaired. So we're going to go back to where you'll get a pothole update every 2 weeks. The ones that have been done. And so he'll do it. I will tell you we're getting appraisal done on the pawn shop demo. I need to have an idea of what that property is going to appraise for, so we have an understanding that when we go to sell it, you know, what we're doing with it. We're still in draft form for the RFQ for performance contract for the energy savings, and of course, once again, that's going to depend on what my mid-year budget analysis looks like from January to June. And then, as I've explained earlier, we're still working on the water rates, and those numbers are going to Stephen for some calculations. I will tell you that the easement that we granted to Miss Ringer, if you remember, with the north side of B Lane Express, what is it? The road. We said, look, we're not going to be able to take down any of these heritage trees. However, myself and Mr. Pompeo have talked together, and this is one of those issues that he has. But there is one tree there that needs to come down. And of course, it will not come down at our expense. But it is an older dying tree that she apparently cannot make that turn with her horse trap. And like I said, Mr. Pompeo was spearheaded the saving of the trees, which I don't disagree. And so more than likely, we're going to grant her the permission to remove that one dead tree that's preventing her from making that turn. I will tell you also that we're starting this week. We'll be working with Mr. Boyer on the Laurel Point development. So that'll be coming in front of you. And I would like to read something sent by the Hires, Johnny Hires, and it was during the Watermelon Heritage Festival we had. And basically, it's talking about Tom Wolf and Jason Fox, 2 of our employees. And he went on to say that I just wanted to say how amazing the park was for the Watermelon Festival. The trash by one of the tents was consistently emptied and employees came around to make sure we had everything we needed. He wanted to thank us, thank you again, and thanks for the awesome day, and from Johnny Hires and his wife. So he singled out those two employees as being specific for that day. And then I have a couple items on the agenda that I'll speak about. That's all I have.
All right, staff. Police Chief Rolls.
The only update that I have is I always like to recognize when somebody does something good for us at the police department, and I want to thank the Marion County Sheriff Office again. They graciously donated us some more equipment yesterday, as far as laser radar guns, in-car radars, and in-car camera systems. So I just want to give them a thank you and let everybody know that the networking and the partnership between the law enforcement agencies here are working.
Thank you. Great.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to announce that qualifying for Group D seat started yesterday, Monday, July 5th, and it ends on Friday, July 19th at noon.
Okay. Thank you. Fire Chief Siegel.
Yes, sir. I was just going to make the council aware that I attended the county budget meeting today. The fire department's amount that they're getting from the county this year is going to remain the same as last year. It's $397,085.
All right. Thank you, sir. Airport, Mr. Siegel.
Not a whole lot to report from the airport. We're moving right along with the new terminal building. A lot of the exterior finishes are complete. They're finishing up the portico and the back porch, as it were. And cabinets are being installed on the inside. Flooring's being installed on the inside. So we're pushed back a little bit due to, or pushed back to the final move-in due to the paving that's going to be taking place. Gray's site work team had a little bit of a delay with another project, so we're looking at the 1st of September moving into the building now.
Okay. Great to hear. Look forward to it. Mr. Mills?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Ms. Jones? Mr. Bishop?
Yes, sir. As far as the pothole conversation we had in the past, so since the last meeting, we fixed 9 major patches, biggest being 24 by 24, the smallest being 4 by 6, and then they were able to get to 35 miscellaneous potholes throughout town. And then today we ordered 3 more loads of coal patch. And we talked about possibly contracting some of this out, so I have my first meeting in the morning to get one of 3 quotes to see if that's something we want to move forward with. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Barber? Good. Council? Anybody? Ms. Jones?
Tell me what the trenches, and I will call them that, are on 7th Street. There's 5 of them.
Are you referring to Northwest 7th Street?
I am.
So that's going to be a lot of the electrical line work, secondary and primary, throughout Country Lane Estates. And a lot of them were paved today.
Terrific.
Yes, ma'am.
After 12 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's when I looked. Okay, I got a call last night about 10 o'clock. Somebody who'd hit one of them in the dark and didn't realize that they were there. Let's just say it was the county commissioner. So I didn't know they were there either, so I didn't have a whole lot of answer for him, but I did go look this afternoon. So it's the underground electric.
Yes, ma'am. So they had
For Country Lane Estates.
The electric going into CLE is underground. So the above ground copper is coming out. But to get rid of the above ground copper, we had to do underground to the opposite side of the road to
I knew it was
feed
above
those.
ground now, and I knew the plan was to go underground. So
Correct.
that's
And I was there roughly 5:30 tonight when they were working on the last one then.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
Anybody else on council? You may.
Can you tell me when the electric on that project is going to be done? Or do you know? Because those pipes are in my front yard and they're kind of a pain.
But they're pretty. So the power pole is scheduled to go in. The concrete power pole from Ocala is scheduled to go in this weekend. So hopefully week at the most after that. But I can't promise that. But that is our goal.
Thank you.
Yes, and then after that, we have to start working on the street lights on the interior of CLE, and I don't have a timeline at this time, to be honest with you.
Ms. Jones?
I noticed that the huge pile of clay is still in Peggy O'Neill Dahlstrom Park. Do
Yes.
we have a timeline of when we can get that spread?
No, I do not. I was talking to Nicholas today. We're going to start mowing out there and cleaning up tomorrow, and he's hoping to get it out this week, but weather being permitting, he couldn't guarantee it, but that's his goal.
I mean, it was nice to see the clay there. I just know it needs to be put down on the paths.
Absolutely.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. President, I have nothing to add to the conversation.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Item 5, new business. All right. Item A, discussion with possible action. Presentation from Fiber by Central Florida, Mr. George Buckner.
Good evening, Council. George Buckner, Fiber by Central Florida. I'm also the CIO for Central Florida Electric Cooperative. I'd like to thank the Council for the opportunity to present today and give you a status update for our fiber bill here in the Tri-County area. I have 4 main goals for the presentation tonight. And that first goal is to provide the Council with an update regarding the services that Fiber by Central Florida provides. My second goal is to provide the Council with a status update of the overall project here in the Tri-County area. My third goal is to provide the Council with our proposal for providing high-speed internet here in the city of Wilmington. And then my last goal, which is the most important goal, is for me to leave here tonight with a good course of action from the Council for us and staff regarding the next step for providing high-speed internet here in the city of Wilmington. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the services that we have by Fiber by Central Florida. I'm going to cover a little bit on our residential internet services, and then I'll go into our voice services. At the same time, I'll talk a little bit about our broadband offering for businesses, but those businesses require a little bit more. Just know that we do offer. So in front of you right now, we have 4 main services. We have a bronze plan, which is our 100 meg service. We have silver, gold, and then a platinum. Platinum is 2 gig service. Our $49.99 package is by far our most economical, but it's also the one that's usually taken by the people in our service territory. What's interesting about the bronze plan is that's also the same cost on our business side. We deal with a lot of small businesses. We have a lot of barbershops, small real estate offices, and even home businesses. So we wanted to keep that cost low for them as well, and that's $49.99 on the business side. On the business side, there are a lot of services that we do not necessarily advertise, but if there's an enterprise service phone system or they need additional surveillance cameras, that type of thing, we will bring a preferred partner to help us execute and bundle that into our service to help that business grow. We also offer a voice service, which is the next slide. That voice service is $29.95. It's a modern service, just like most offerings today. It has voicemail, nationwide calling, and caller ID. We also offer the same thing for businesses at $39.95. Again, any business that's larger than 5 phone lines or needs a more enterprise phone system, we would work with a preferred partner to make sure that we brought the best effort to that business and ensure they got what they needed. Besides our services, get to the update and probably the meat of the presentation, which is our status here in the Tri-County area. When we started this project, it was a 4-year build. We have 16 substations. Our plan was to do 4 substations each year, 4 years. Our general manager, Denny George, said that's just not fast enough. You guys got to go fast. So we wanted us to do that in 2 years. So as of this past month, we've been doing service for now 13 months. Started June 12th, 2003. 13 months, we've turned 10 of our 16 substations online. I have another 2 substations that are completely built, waiting for a little bit of splicing before we turn those live. And then we'll be working on the last 4 substations that we have. That's our Otter Creek substation, our Inglis, Cedar Key, and our Swanee substations. Our plan, bearing any weather, would be to have all that in the air by December of this year. So not only did we go fast, we went really fast. So instead of 24 months, we did that in 18 months. That's our plan. But we didn't stop there, because another one of our goals was to ensure that we didn't leave anyone behind. We hit our membership, but at the same time, we're working with Duke Energy to make sure that we hit those communities that are surrounded by us. We have 5 major projects with Duke Energy: Trenton, Ross City, Old Town, Fanning Springs, and the city of Chiefland. Make-ready engineering has been completed. All of our pole attachment agreements have been approved, and make-ready construction is being started in several of those areas. Our make-ready engineering team is getting ready to move into Bronson. Once I have my estimates there, we'll go in front of our board, get approval to go ahead and start make-ready construction in the Bronson area for the Duke area. Which leads me right into the Williston area. So right now, before we even get into Williston, all 10 substations live, we have 7,300 customers as of this morning. Pretty good feat. We're installing about 200 people per week and try and hit 8 to 1,000 each month to keep our goal moving. So let's talk a little bit about the city of Williston right now. Our Williston feeder, or our Williston substation has 4 feeders. We have our By-Right feeder, Freddie Mac, our Sandlin, and we also have our Montbrook feeder. Out of those 4, the only one left to go live is By-Right. It's by far the largest feeder that we have, just under 1,400 customers on that one feeder. If you're looking at the screen, it covers that portion of the substation closest to Bronson, north and south. So it's a large feeder, even in mileage. Now, if you take a look at your screen and you look at the image on the right-hand side, that's the city of Williston. But it also includes, which is an interesting part about Williston, is where 5 different electric providers come together. We have Sumter Electric, we have Clay Electric, the city of Williston, Duke, and then Central Florida Electric. And what you see in that slide is a design for a fiber build that's built out already, designed for those 5 different utilities. We already have Duke Energy with their make-ready engineering and approvals set to go in this area. We also have pole attachment agreements that are set to be approved with Sumter Electric and Clay Electric for this area. So right now, we're here at Williston today to talk about what it's going to take for us to provide high-speed internet for the city of Williston. So let's talk about the opportunities that we have. So the first opportunity that Mr. Denny George would like me to talk about is a 50-50 equity partnership with the city of Williston. That could mean a lot of things to different people. But ultimately, the goal is that if there are any grants, any loans that the city of Williston has, that they have that can go toward a broadband deployment, we would love to be brought to the table for that. Any financial vehicle that's available to the city, we would definitely take under consideration to help build out this part of the city at a much faster pace. So I want to make that clear as well. But my main point tonight is to talk about being a preferred partner and the positives of being a preferred partner. And there's a difference for a preferred partner. Basically what I'm talking about here is we'd like to go to market in the city of Williston as the main provider for your residents. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means for your residents. So the first thing for the city of Williston is we believe we're going to help you guys generate a little bit more revenue because of your pole attachments. We also think because of a cooperation between the city of Williston and Central Florida Electric, there's probably some efficiencies on the line-off side. When we roll a truck from Chiefland, we've got a lot of windshield time. And if we could utilize some of the resources here on our dime, we may be able to be a little bit more efficient and get power on a little bit quicker for the residents near the city of Williston. We also know that you guys have some really highly qualified and trained IT support people. And if we're going to roll out fiber services to the city of Williston, it would be great to have that asset that's local, that lives here, that knows the people here, and has that relationship So we think there's some efficiencies that we can have there as well. Another positive that we have for the city of Williston. Don't mind advancing. Gotcha. I apologize. Is that we also think there's some savings for the city of Williston. So we're going to put in a fiber broadband infrastructure. We're going to cover 100% of the businesses in the house in this area. We're going to maintain that as well, so there's no repair for the city of Williston. If you're rolling out a smart grid project, we think we can help you roll that out much faster than if you did it by yourself. So we think there's some savings to the city there. And we also think there's an opportunity for the city to reduce its internet connectivity costs. What we see when we do analysis with other communities and businesses is that we're saving them a tremendous amount on their internet bills and their phone bills. So we think there's an opportunity for savings there as well. We also ensure that the city and the citizens of the city gets 100% fiber to the home business infrastructure. Not only business, but also for the residential side of the house. And we're talking about a pretty fast rollout. Months, not years. Our goal for the city is to have fiber in the air by the end of 2024. That means providing services early 2025. Now, with all of these things, the city accomplishes a full fiber deployment for its citizens while partnering with Central Florida Electric, which is community owned. It's owned by all the members. It's a local entity. And we've been providing electric service since 1939. I mean, we're here for the long haul. But I'll also add this. There's not too many other places or organizations that you'll work with that at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you call our general manager, if you call Denny George, or you call any of our line supervisors, you're going to get an answer. And if you don't get an answer on that first ring, they're going to give you a call back. Not too many places can say that, but we know that we live here and we love the communities that we serve. So I say all of that because at the end of the day, the bottom line is Fiber by Central Florida wants to come into Williston and be your preferred partner during this entire fiber broadband rollout. That's pretty much the end of the slide. I want to thank you guys for your time and see if you have any questions.
Okay. Council's got any questions?
And I have like 10,000.
All right.
Go ahead, Mayor Goodman.
No, please.
Okay. I noticed on the plan package, and I mean this is not unique to you guys. So there's the price, and then in the little tiny print it says taxes and fees. Taxes you can't get away from. Some of the fees you can't get away from. But realistically, if I purchase the $49.99 plan, what would my total bill be per month?
This is an easy answer for me. Okay. So when it comes to internet, there are no fees or taxes. So your bill is $49.99. So what happens is we have a $100 install fee. There are taxes on top of that. So it's $100 plus $7 for the taxes and fees. But ultimately, after that first bill, it's $49.99 each month. Yeah. And the phone service, there are taxes and fees on that, just like your normal phone bill.
Wonderful. And then, is this an introductory rate plan? Do you foresee these rates going up in the near future, far future? Obviously, very far future. But how quickly would you anticipate these rate plans to go up?
Right. So these are definitely not introductory rates. These rates were provided to us by Connexon, who's our project manager for the entire our area here. They have over 40 projects going on nationwide. So this was an analysis, pricing analysis they did that made this project feasible. So ultimately, our goal is not to raise prices, and if anything, introduce additional levels to make it more economical for the members that we serve.
And then one last question. And you used the phrase "in the air."
Correct.
Is that literally? Is it being broadcast or is it coming in on a line into the house?
Very, very good question. So when we run fiber, the reason I said in the air is all of the bulk of our fiber deployment is done aerially. So it's run on the power lines that are throughout the territory. We do quite a bit of underground, but for the most part, in order to go as fast as we are today, we would not be able to do that if we did not utilize the power line infrastructure and go aerially. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor?
Speaking of aerial,
Yes, sir.
I'm one of those problem people.
Okay.
So I have talked to the city manager, and he has assured me, and I don't know what his position, which is one of my many questions. We've had multiple conversations. I had a competitor show up at my door the other day, ringing the doorbell, and I talked to the city manager, but he was on city business out of town, and we could not meet about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other companies out there that are trying to get in, and I don't know if you're the same company or not.
Okay.
You guys are like a whirlwind around here right now.
Yes, sir.
So with this system, will you put underground service in where it is necessary?
Yes, sir. So to answer that, the best way that I can answer that is we try to follow power. So if your power to your residence is overhead, we try to go overhead. Now, sometimes that's not possible. If you have tree coverage, we will default and go underground. If your power is underground, we follow that power. That's where your easement's at, and we will go underground there as well. Ultimately, when our crews show up to your house to install a fiber deployment, they are going to meet with the resident themselves. They are going to tell that resident, hey, this is how we plan on serving your house. Are you okay with us running it this way? If there are problems with that fiber being run the way that we need to run it, we will run it according to that residential request, as long as it's safe and that we can have written permission to do so. Those are the two key things that we look for. So on our, give you an example, I live in a Quell Run there in Trenton. It's 100% underground subdivision. And it's Duke infrastructure. So we do not have where Duke's power lines are to the house. So we relied a lot on meeting with the members on our phone call, asking them what side of their house their electric was on, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of dialogue that goes on before we get there to install your equipment.
Which leads to my next question. Since over the power overhead power lines attached to existing poles is the simplest, would it be correct to assume that they will get internet first and then the underground will be as we can?
No, sir. So when we go through and we build our mainline fiber, it's a complete design as you had seen on your slide, and that's a design for mainline all the way to the home. So if we identify an area where we have to go underground to a house, we put what's called a flower pot in next to your residence, or a pedestal. So all that underground work is ready, and what's left for us to do is basically go from that flower pot, tap, or pedestal directly to your house.
Okay. When you were talking about your rates, you followed that up with a phone thing.
Yes.
I know that ideally you would like to sell those services, but many people don't even use their home phones anymore. Everything is on your cell phone. If someone calls my home phone, good luck. I may get the message you leave in 6 months. So the question is the phone tied to the internet in any way? Is it required that you get the phone service?
Understand the question, and we do not tie the services together. You can have one or the other. If you get internet service, it does not require you to get phone service. On the opposite side, the phone service only works with internet service. So if you want phone service, you need to pick a internet package for that. I will also say that we were worried about the phone service as well, but it's amazing how many people have had a phone number for decades, and they don't want to lose it. So they will ask us to port that number, which we can do. We port that phone number over, and they've got our service for a much cheaper price per month. Additionally, some folks still have some older ADT alarm systems that require an analog phone line. So we have a few instances where we have to do that as well.
You said you hoped, you plan, if this council chooses to make you the preferred customer, the preferred provider.
Yes.
To have high-speed internet ready, not installed, but just ready to go by the end of 2024?
Our goal is to have our fiber teams in here, putting fiber in the air and having it ready by the end of this year for us to get our, so after construction is done, the next phase is splicing. Splicing takes 6 to 8 weeks after construction ends. So our goal is to have the fiber in the air by the end of the year so that our splicers can get in here and start splicing the entire network.
You're going to
So
have to
6
help
8
me. I
weeks.
don't know what a splicer is.
Splicing is basically, we have to come in and we have to put the two pieces of glass together.
Yeah.
And that allows that light to go from one end to the other and provide you with that internet service.
And the splicing is everywhere you want to take it into a residence?
Yes, sir. Everywhere there's a connection point, we would have to splice that in. We would have to make that connection.
And you're suggesting that within 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks?
6 to 8 weeks after our construction is completed.
So if you have it by the end of the year, we're now moving into March or April of next year before someone actually can use that internet.
The first quarter of 2025. And it could be at any time during the first quarter of 2025. The biggest thing that hinders us with a deployment is weather. If it's too rainy outside or too humid, it makes working with fiber a little bit more difficult. Other than that, if it's a blue sky and it's cool, it's cold, the winter time is when we get the bulk of our work done. There's not a lot of rain. It's not too hot. The guys love working out there. They're in attics. They're able to knock out a lot in a relatively short period of time. Our first quarter of this year, if you look at what we installed for 6 months from 2023, so from June of 2023 to December, we had 3,000 installs. If you look at what we've done so far for this year, we've already installed over 4,000. So we've picked up the pace, but the beginning of the year, that January, February, March timeframe, allowed us to pick up a lot of extra subscribers because the weather was very good to us.
My last question.
Yes.
Have you been in consultation and in conversation with our city manager?
We have, and actually we've had very good conversations. I will tell you the city staff here has been great to work with.
And I don't know exactly how to phrase this, so I'm just going to say it outright. We were talking, the city manager and I, about what one company would do and the other company wouldn't do, and it was a very complicated issue. Have you, and I'm not going to look at the city manager because we have you and our city manager reached an agreement on compensation for attaching to our poles?
I can honestly say we have not.
Okay.
We do have some ideas with the pole attachment with the city. Our understanding is currently, and I don't want to speak for the city, but there are some talks going on about the pole attachments currently. Our stance on it is whatever it takes for us to get here at the city of Williston, that's what we want to do.
So if we want to charge you $500 each pole, that you would be willing to do that?
I should say within reason.
Okay.
Our goal
Okay.
would be to be here. We are putting a lot of effort in trying to go to our communities and make sure that we do not step on any toes.
Okay.
We know that there were businesses here before us that rely on certain things. We also know that the city of Williston also has their own internet business.
Yes.
The City of Williston Wireless. Knowing that, we're trying to work with the city of Williston. The last thing we want to do is go into a competitive market to where it pits two very good, upstanding members of the community against each other in a small town.
Okay,
That is
so
not our
that's
goal.
where I was going with my last question, I promise.
Yes, sir.
We currently, those few of us that can actually get it for whenever it's actually working, have a system called CalLink.
Yep.
Would your system completely replace CalLink, or would we then be having CalLink some places, your system other places?
Our goal as Fiber by Central Florida and Central Florida Electric would to run fiber to 100% of the businesses and residents in the city of Williston, which would negate the need for the bulk of the service that CalLink is providing.
Okay, that's
There
my
are
last
some,
question.
I'm going to say this, that there are some scenarios where wireless does make a good fit if you're an RV park. But if we're talking about businesses and straight to the home, the fiber infrastructure we're going to put in will hit 100% of those people.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to comment that I've been to 4 or 5 of your presentations. Every time I see that you're presenting in Chiefland or Bronson or Williston, or even at the chamber, I've been to all of those. I've pretty much asked all my questions and heard other people's questions and the answers that you've provided to them. So I think I have a pretty good understanding. I will say, even though I've got city staff sitting back there, I currently have CalLink at my place of employment, and I also have CalLink at my house, and I'm waiting for you.
Enough said.
Question for you. You mentioned about a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Saturday night, 1 a.m.
Yes.
System goes down. How do we handle it?
All right, so our system's monitored 24/7 by a NOC that's up in Missouri. So 24/7, if there's a bad network issue that happens in this area, my team gets a phone call. We have duty technicians that are on call 24/7. Right now, that's me and a few other people. We stay up till late nights. But ultimately, what happens is once that issue is identified, we get sent out local boots on the ground to triage what happened. The other benefit is that we run that same infrastructure as our electric infrastructure. So we're going to know immediately, was it electrically based? Because we have that insight that a lot of people don't have. If we know that a car hit a pole and took out electricity for 1,000 people, and our outage includes 1,000 people, we know that typically it's going to be a power outage. And we know where that issue is going to be, so we can staff up and ensure that we have the right resources ready at that pole, so when they're electrically safe, we can start our work on the fiber side.
So getting, because everybody seems to be switching to streaming.
Right.
They're leaving Dish and all the different ones doing streaming.
Yes.
So I would imagine we get some hostile people if it's a Friday night, 10 o'clock. Currently with CenturyLink, if it goes out after 5 o'clock, you're done until Monday.
Right.
Because they have no money. So you all have people that will be working the weekends and
Yes,
if there's outages.
The fiber is not impervious to having things happen to it. Since we've started in June of last year, we've had several incidents where cars have taken out some poles. For some reason, they magnetize the poles enough to where it tracks those things. But we had one here recently in Trenton. Dump truck hit our fiber line. Happened right at 5 o'clock. It was on a Duke territory pole, so we had to wait for them to make it electrically safe. Started at 5 o'clock. Within 3 hours, the bulk of those 400 people were back online. Within another 2 hours, we had 100% people back online, and it was fixed. There's no coming back to it. Fixed the issue. So again, just under 400 people, and they were out for a total of 4 or 5 hours. Yeah.
Can I follow up Mike's question just because it ties in? If a hurricane comes and there are a lot of power lines that are down and the fiber is run with the power, do you have the staff be able to fix both in a timely fashion, or will your staff be dedicated more to returning power?
Yeah. Very good question. So right now, if you take a look at Central Florida Electric Cooperative, we have 116 employees, the bulk of which are outside operations. Now, you could add 50 to 60 additional bodies for contractors that we have just on the electric side. And when we go into a storm scenario, we're bringing in double that to come in and help us on the electric side. On the fiber side, as of today, without a hurricane, I have over 150 plus bodies on the ground doing my fiber install. That's like a hurricane level work for the bodies that we have here. We also have 5 other co-ops here in the state of Florida that are building out fiber. So the possibility of a hurricane coming in and hitting all 5 of us at one time, it's pretty slim. It could happen, but it's pretty slim. What that does is we have a mutual aid program just like most of the municipalities, and that would allow them to send their fiber guys up here to help us as well. So, and we did that during Idalia. We sent a lot of our crews to help out Tri-County Electric and Swan Valley Electric on the fiber side to to help them get their fiber systems back online.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brevard?
Thank you, Mr. President. So, just a couple things, George, real quick. The one question I have: who governs your price increase?
Who governs our price increases?
Yeah.
We go in front of our board. So the same board that's over our electric cooperative is over the fiber business as well.
So, same setup we have here. It's like the city council.
Yes.
So, and then the one thing you really didn't touch on is that we talked about, you and myself and Denny, is that, where they may not roll a truck at 3 o'clock in the morning to fix one person's house. They clearly understand from the discussions that we've had that we're in the service industry. And although we will likely roll a vehicle out in the middle of the night, and part of the agreement would be that they're going to pay for that cost. So if the mayor goes out, I'm not picking on him because he's the mayor or we would do a favor for him. If yours went out, we get a call 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Saturday. It doesn't matter. If we decide to send a vehicle out there to fix it, then the part of their agreement would be that they're going to have to repay us back for that service.
That was my question for you. You two's conversation.
Correct. So that was where we were talking about the efficiencies by utilizing whether it's the City of Williston line ops or their IT support staff. We would have that in our agreement to be able to utilize them and pay them their hourly out of our side, so we didn't have to roll a vehicle. It just makes sense. If we've got the resources and they're well trained, why not use them?
And just one more thing, George. It's like y'all have not worked around us. I mean, basically, you're at a point now where you're at the city where it is now our opportunity to make the decision.
That is 100% correct. We hit Bronson. Like I said, my make-ready engineers are there. I should have my make-ready engineering and make-ready construction estimates by the next couple of weeks. My next place is going to be here at the City of Williston, and I'd love to be able to roll them right in.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And for the city council's purposes, if you looked at your lead sheet going into the agenda item, I was simply hoping that I knew have them come in, make the presentation, and I'll get a chance to ask the questions, which were all great questions. And then in 3 weeks, we're set to do the other presentation from the city and take a look at them too and see really which way do you really want to go. And, you're going to have to take into a lot of factors, cost effectiveness, rate of return, a bunch of other stuff. And at that point, when we get to the point where we're making some decisions, I can share some more ideals that I have that I would expect to see or at least discuss in the agreement with Fiber West.
Okay.
Like the $500 poll tax.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
Ms. Ballou. Ms. Ballou, would we just need to do a consensus to this, since where we'll, because CalLink will be in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I don't know that you even need a consensus at this point. I think that what I heard, I mean, you certainly can if you all are decided without hearing about CalLink that this is definitely the way you want to go or definitely not the way you want to go, then city staff, I'm sure, would appreciate the direction. But you can just take the presentation and then after CalLink make a decision.
Okay. That good?
I have a question.
Yes.
You said CalLink 3 times. Is that the other company that's going to present?
That's us. Yeah, that's us. So
yeah, I know it is us. That's why I asked.
Yeah, to give you an idea, I think I mentioned it before, to give you an idea of how we've come at this is, as y'all know, I've said before, my goal is a high-speed internet in the city. That's my goal, regardless of how we get there. So we worked on 2 business models. I worked with Fiber by Central Florida, not that you should give them any more credit just because I worked with them, but I was the conduit to them. And then the utilities department with CalLink, along with what we're doing with the city of Ocala and how it would work, because they'll be helping us run the fiber in the air. What would that look like? So there's 2 sides of the house here coming together, presenting to y'all to let you make a decision which way you want to go.
Okay, just real short version, is Cowlink the other company?
Yes, it would
Thank
be.
you.
It would be an enterprise.
Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
So we'll meet with the other one in 3 weeks, and then Mr. Brevard will be back in touch.
Most definitely. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that our discussions with them are going to stop, because we, if I know what they're doing, but I still have my part with them. So it's not like we're not going to be talking in 3 weeks.
Right. And just to be clear, we want that discussion to happen either way, because we'll still have to work with the city for pole attachments. And we want to make sure that we get that paperwork submitted, and also with your permitting department, make sure we have the right-of-way easement. So I know that paperwork takes some time, so we're going to want to start that early as well. So we've got plenty of time.
Just one question I thought. How deep do you put this if it's run into a house?
It really depends on the development. We have some developments that require it to be 24 inches below grade. In the right-of-way for the county, our underground is 24 inches below grade if it's on the outer edge of the right-of-way. Everything else is 48 inches, and if you're going under the road, depending on the road type, it could be four more feet below that paved surface. So we have a lot that we go into that right-of-way discussion when we get to the city permit.
4 feet, you should be able to get through several of our sewer lines.
Okay. But we do not cut any pavement. A lot of cities have asked us that. We do direct burial. We try to do that a lot of time on the side of the right-of-way. But we'll either use a missile if we can do that in the right-of-way. Otherwise, it's a directional bore. There's no cutting of your facilities whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. All right. Item B, discussion with possible action, review and approval of RFP 2024-02 Fire Tanker 72 rebuild loan. Mr. Chief Lamar Steve.
Yes, sir. We received 2 RFPs last about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now. It come out that Seacoast Bank was the cheapest by almost 2 whole %. I'm asking for approval to move forward with that loan process for the tanker rebuild.
All right. Council have any questions?
My question, because there really wasn't any backup for me to look, so I was just going to look straight at you.
Okay.
All right, where was I going with that? Hold on, give me a minute. I had my question all there. Give me a second. Go ahead. Oh, is it in the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
It's part of the budget already. It's
we
capital
put it in the
improvement.
budget this last year.
And is it under maintenance?
It will. No, ma'am. It's under
Under
a separate.
capital?
Yeah, and it was. We had to do it as a loan, and then it'll go back as a payment over 7 years, if that's
Okay.
what we choose to do with 7 years.
And should we wait for the approval of the budget before we? That's my biggest question. Is should we wait for the approval of the
I would
budget?
not think so, because it was in last year's budget. It was in this year's.
So it's
budget.
a rollover.
Yes, yes, ma'am. And the faster I can start this ball rolling, the faster I can get this truck back. I'd really like to have it back before brush fire season of the next year.
That was my question. Is it in budget, and do we need to wait until the budget's approved? But if it's rollover from last year, I guess that was the plan all along.
It's because it was a lot cheaper. You had it was, my memory serves me, another company that could rebuild it a lot cheaper than.
Yes, sir. It was to replace it's $500,000. To rebuild it's $160,000.
And the loan payments are in the budget.
Yes, ma'am. They will be. Yeah, we
They
don't.
will be.
We only do it annually, so that they'll break that. That'll come back just like the regular capital payments in the fire department's budget.
I know you weren't here at our last budget
No, I was not.
meeting.
Yep.
So
Jimmy,
I'm not sure the loan payments are in the budget currently. And I don't have my budget with me. It's at home on the table. And that's my only question.
Chief, do you know if he kept it in the budget for next year?
This was all discussed with Stephen before the budget.
I think he kept it in there. I remember seeing
Yes,
it, but I don't know if the loan payments are
Yeah,
included in there.
I can't answer that. I don't.
Oh, Donald, you got it?
Yeah, you may have the presentation. whole budget? Okay.
I remember him saying it was
Yeah,
in there.
because we've only had the one look at our budget, so I haven't got that part memorized yet.
But
The loan payments are there.
It's got the whole capital outlay. Every single line item. That's the whole thing.
But it, yeah, but it,
Okay, but capital outlay sometimes is done by a loan.
Projected as we had it projected at $30,000 payment.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So it is.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And this will need to come back as a resolution? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we're spending the money. In this particular case, we're saying we're awarding it to Seacoast.
Correct.
Because of
Yep.
you put in the record the difference between the two.
Yep.
Which one's better? And then basically, so we'll have to come back in front of you with a resolution to get the final approval to move forward.
So that's what you want the motion to say?
I don't particularly want to touch that. I mean, you can put that in there. Yeah, absolutely.
That we accept the bid, the RFQ from.
Yeah, you.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be the appropriate motion if that's what you
Okay,
wish to do.
just that we have, I move that we accept the RFP from Seacoast Bank for the repairs to the fire truck.
Do you have a second? All right. I'll entertain a motion. Any discussion? Sorry. All right. Move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's 4-0. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right. Item C will be a quasi-judicial hearing.
I think
my goodies here. Yeah. All right. Resolution 2024-71, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the developer's agreement by and between Armstrong Land LLC, a Florida limited liability company in City of Williston, Florida, for the development known as the Towns of Williston and providing an effective date. So has there been any council member who has had any ex parte conversation with the applicant? No? This includes site visits, right? Will there be applicant, staff, or witnesses speaking of this matter?
Anyone who wishes to speak to this matter will need to stand, raise your right hand.
So I think one of the issues is, I know Mr. Gooding stepped out of the room, and Laura could be one of the other persons who could testify to it, or at least speak on his behalf. And so there may have been a communication mix-up with Lennar not being here.
Well, why are we doing quasi-judicial for a resolution?
Yeah, I didn't know you had to do that.
It's for the developer's agreement because it's related to the particular piece of property. There doesn't have to be a presentation from the applicant themselves. You just have to go through the developer's agreement and make sure that make sure that the council understands. There's no requirement quasi judicial that the applicant
Mr.
themselves be
Adams?
here.
Mr. Adams? Don?
Done.
Don, could you get Mr. Gooding, please?
He's coming back.
This isn't Mr. Gooding, is it?
It
Yes,
could
ma'am.
be.
Oh,
I think it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had anything to do with
He
Lennar.
helped develop it with us.
I had no idea. There's your line.
Hello, sir.
Sorry. So this
We're
is
just
the
talking
town.
about the developer's agreement.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have restless leg syndrome. Pathetic disease.
All right. So are there going to be any applicant, staff, or witnesses speaking on the matter? Has to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. Staff's opening statement. Staff's opening statement.
Yeah.
The resolution that we're presenting to you tonight is for the developers agreement for the townhomes. It's called the Towns of Williston. 55 townhomes over on 5 acres. The developers agreement is not too different from the one you guys have seen over with Country Lane Estates. This is fairly new for the city, but this has to do a lot with what utilities we're going to have, who's going to pay for what kind of agreements we're going to have with the developer themselves. So they do own the property, and it is within the city limits. They intend to develop it as the subdivision for the plat that you have already seen. So you guys already approved the plat, and you saw that. We do have all the underground, and we don't have any permits yet for this, but we do have all the underground planning already done and approved. There are some attachments here, so if you have any questions about the attachments, we're happy to talk to you about those. But this is, if you want me to go through it, I can go through it, but if you have particular questions, I'd love to answer them.
Some of the exhibits are blank.
There's one exhibit that's blank that is the line of credit, which I was not comfortable putting up in public. It's in our safe. I tried to put void on it. I tried to put all kinds of things, but then when I realized how many people have access to the internet and to change it is actually almost like a check. So if anybody would like to see it, it is on our possession, but is in our safe.
What about the
The other one, the tree plan, was attached to the back. It's on page 30.
I have 46.
We didn't get it.
You did. It's on
Further
page
down.
46. It's after the checklist. It was a little bit late for the agenda, so when I sent it off to the city clerk, they put it at the back of the item.
So what looks like a site plan is really a tree plan.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the tree plan because in the packet it's pretty hard to read what anything is. It's all blurry the way it's scanned in, and I'm very familiar with that corner. And there are a lot of huge, beautiful live oaks, which I'm sure will be taken down. How many live oaks will be planted according to this plan? I just could not read the numbers.
So the tree plan just meets our code, so I haven't counted how many live oaks are going to be replaced.
So are the large clear circles trees?
Yeah, and they are keeping. a
Because you
big-
can't read the legend. It's too small to read.
Would you like us to print out a big one for you? I can go do that. It'll only take me a moment.
I hate to do that, but are the large round circle, are the round circle clear circles, are those trees?
They're landscape. It's a landscaping plan, so yes. And then the legends at the bottom. If you guys said you can't read it.
What were you saying about trees they're going to keep?
They are going to keep some of the live oaks out there.
Where? I mean, to me, it looks like every inch of this is covered in parking lot, houses.
Most of
or
it is.
drainage ponds. So where are the trees that they're keeping?
Probably
So
on
the circles that you see,
Probably the exterior.
Oh, the
is
big
landscaping.
3 ones. The really big, the 3 really big ones.
No, the two at the top. I think those are trees. It's hard to tell because it's so small you can't read them, especially on here. And if you go down a little farther, does that say what kind of trees? Is that what that's supposed to say?
it does say what kind of trees.
Like right there, does that tell you what kind of tree they're going to plant or what kind of shrubbery? I can't read any of that. So
This is a landscaping plan, so it's got a schedule on it, and the schedule will tell you. I can go print out a big one for you if you want me. If you guys are.
Yeah, I can't read it.
yeah,
I zoomed in a lot. It's still blurry.
and I tried to print it at home, but I couldn't see it any better. Guess we can ask other questions while we're waiting.
So Laura, the hedge along the edge, is that also going to have a fence, or is that just a landscaping hedge? In other words, will the property be contained by a fence other than the opening out onto Fourth?
Are you talking about the lift? I think you're talking about a lift station.
No, I'm looking at the landscaping plan, and there's a perimeter.
What appears to be a hedge.
Appears to be a hedge
Yeah,
or
I
a
really
fence.
can't tell. Yeah.
And I guess my question is this property going to be, is it going to be enclosed or by a fence or a hedge, or are the edges of it open?
Can you go back to 46, page 46 on the overhead, please? Yeah. And like she's saying, across the top, that's 4th Street, and you can see what appears to be hedges or plants along that edge as well as along 30th.
Specifically, I believe the counselor is asking if it's going to be a contained subdivision or if it's going to be open.
Oh, no, it'll be contained. It's going to be, the property line is going to be fenced.
Okay,
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that was my question.
Okay.
They'll all be happy to know it's stamped.
And these are existing trees.
These are hollies. All of these are hollies. They're holly trees we've discovered. There's a patio that what we're seeing in the top corner is a patio.
No, ma'am. What you're seeing on the top corner, are you talking about the top
It
left?
says it's stone.
Are you talking about it's shaded in off of 4th? That's the lift station.
The top right hand side.
Yes. If you're looking at this, it's the
I
top
do see
right.
the lift station there.
Yeah.
But it says that those other things are stone. So it's not some kind of, I don't know. But the things she's talking about, they are holly trees that go all along the hedge there, the edge. It says those are hollies.
Nobody's going to have access to that lift station except for us, and it'll be totally
Sure.
covered.
Yeah, Donald, correct me if I'm wrong. The lift station is going to be just like the one in CLE.
So I didn't swear in.
Oh, never mind. So yeah, but I'm on council.
So we can swear you in real quick if you want to say something.
We can swear.
How hard is that?
You swear from testimony you gave will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So I think my question is still the same. That's going to be very similar to Country Lane State, where it's got a rock all around it.
Yeah, all that stone is basically loose gravel. So you have the lift station, you have a work area. It's a specific amount of area to how the new lift stations are going. And so basically you have a fence around it, which is completely secure, a hedge line so that the residents don't have to look at it, and then a singular access that the city can go on without having to go through the subdivision.
And why do they put in the rock as opposed to ground?
It's actually something that you do around gate stations, lift stations. You don't put grass in there. You want to put rock. It's a maintenance question, and it's also a deterioration of the area.
Thank you for the map, and I'm good.
you have any more questions?
I just want to voice my continued concern about the amount of traffic that this is going to put on Southeast 4th Street. And I live right off Southeast 4th Street, so I'm very familiar with the traffic on that road on a daily basis. And I can tell you that when two trucks, and a lot of people around here drive trucks, try to pass each other on 4th Street, one has to stop or drive onto the grass. There are also, it's the side of town, a lot of people walk to Hitchcock's to buy their groceries, and it's already difficult. The crosswalk zigs and zags back across 4th Street. Currently, one of the areas of crosswalk had to be dug up for utility repairs, and it's been fixed with gravel, but it still pools with a ton of water. So anybody who is handicapped, pushing a stroller, riding a bicycle, doesn't want to get their feet wet, has to walk into 4th Street in order to navigate around that puddle. And I just want to express my incredible concern about the amount of traffic with only one exit. And I know this is an old topic, but I just want to get it on the record that I think it's going to be a hot mess on 4th Street and dangerous unless we come up with a plan to improve the crosswalks, to add more stop signs, speed bumps, anything to slow people down. They blow through the one stop sign, the 4-way stop on 4th Street all the time. People get water splashed on them when they're trying to walk on the sidewalks, and it is a side of the community where a lot of people travel by foot. And I just think that ought to be part of with this subdivision plan, part of also the plan is how do we keep that area of the city safe for pedestrian traffic and people who don't have vehicles.
So, Ms. Martin, if I may, don't forget we got the grant called Safe Streets for All from the US DOT.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of that is to assess the entire city for walkability, bikeability, stop signs, the width of the streets, whether we need more sidewalks. Once we get that finished, we get to give them an action plan and say, hey, now we need you to help us pay for all this. And that was the whole point of getting the action plan first instead of just, going to the DOT and saying, oh, we might need some sidewalks here, sidewalks there, because they won't pay for that. But if I give them this beautiful action plan that says, look, we have a problem here. We may have people being hit by cars. We may have bikers getting off of the road here. That's when they come back and they say, okay, let's do some engineering to make this safe for everybody.
And what would be the timeline on that in paralleling with the timeline on this subdivision?
The action plan will probably be finished before these are being sold. But as far as giving the action plan to the feds and getting the money back, that's probably going to be a little bit later. Thank you.
Wasn't there a traffic study?
Traffic study was completed, yeah.
But the traffic study only determines the number of vehicles on the road. It has nothing to do with the sidewalks, the speed bumps, stop signs, infrastructure, lighting. There's no lighting there for anybody. No,
right.
Whatever. Lighting.
Traffic studies about cars.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's not about pedestrian safety.
And it's really, if you flip over to the other side of South Main, they'll pass you by, even if you're doing the speed limit. The apartments, how many apartments are back there? The Arbors?
78.
But there's a lot more than what the towns of Willis will have on there. So, and there's a lot of big trucks.
But that's a 2-lane road with wide medians and sidewalks that are well set back, which 4th Street is not.
So, okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Would anyone in the public like to speak on this matter? All right. If so, tell us. Please get sworn in.
I think I'd like to resound what Ms. Martin said. Oh.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I'd like to reaffirm what Ms. Martin said. I'm not sure that there's been enough study to see if you did get money, is there space to put sidewalks or anything in there? Because basically those properties come right out to the road. And so I think that needs to be studied as well. But it is a place where a lot of people walk, and I'd be really concerned about adding more traffic to that area. So it is something that I think at least need to be studied before a hasty decision is made.
Hi, Jimmy Gooding, 1531 Southeast 36th Avenue. I don't feel so bad about going out now because I really wasn't here on this tonight. But now that I'm here, I'll bill my client for it. But no, I want to just remind you where we are here. This project's been approved. What we're here on is the developers agreement, which is the city's way to make sure that the client builds the subdivision infrastructure that it's obligated to build. That's what we're here on. We're not here to reconsider the project, with all due respect. I want to point out a couple other things that this agreement does, and I did prepare it on behalf of the developer. This is a fairly comprehensive rewrite of y'all's developers agreements to put teeth in y'all's efforts to make sure the developers do what y'all want them to do. Your staff, this is a very strenuously negotiated document. Your staff has added a number of requirements that previously didn't exist, including a checklist to make it easier for the city staff to make sure that the developers do what they're supposed to do, requiring the developers to appoint one contact person so that city staff will know who to contact when issues come up, as well as other protections for the city. This is not our first choice of what this agreement would contain. This is a substantial rewrite of how y'all are keeping developers' feet to the fire. In addition, of course, we've got the natural gas payment in here. But this is this agreement deals with a whole lot more than just the old style developers agreements that you used to do. This will, I think, be a model for how y'all do your future developers agreements to make sure that you don't have the problems like you've had on some of the other projects without clear accountability. So I just want to remind you of what we're here about, as well as point out that this is about a lot more than the tree plan and the other issues that you typically deal with. They really beat us up.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for Mr. Gooding real quick. Sorry. So you were not here representing Lennar originally tonight.
No, ma'am.
Lennar is not here representing Lennar.
Correct.
So we don't really have anybody.
You're right.
If you hadn't been here, there would have been nobody to answer.
There'd have been
our
nobody
questions.
here. Let me tell you the relationship. I actually don't represent Lennar. I represent Chris Armstrong company, the developer of the project. But because he's selling it to Lennar or sold it to Lennar, he had me work on the developers agreement. I'm not Lennar's lawyer. So you're right. I don't know that they knew they needed to come tonight. I don't know. But I wasn't intricately involved in the agreement and can tell you from the developer side, at least Mr. Armstrong's side, the strenuousness with which the city pushed its points.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You got it on tape. I will say that there are some sidewalks in the area, but not a lot. And I think once we see what's the foot traffic increases to, we may have more, as Laura said, we'll have that money that we can go after more, better, wider sidewalks. Because there are issues on that road, especially as you approach the red light. Those last 2 blocks as you approach the red light. Not so much on the end where Towns is going to be, but as you come to that red light, which is probably where most people will come, there is some increased traffic. I mean, some issue that we might need for foot traffic.
And Mr. President, if I may just briefly to reiterate Mr. Gooding's point, the developers agreement that's in front of you is this project has already gone through preliminary platting and lots of other steps. So this is just to get us to at least minimum compliance. You all kind of, we have minimum compliance with the code, which to Mr. Gooding's point, we have more than minimum compliance with the code, in the city's opinion, the city staff's opinion.
I move
Mr. Brevard?
resolution 2024-71.
Mr. Brevard Beach.
Oh, sorry. I was very comfortable sitting here and not saying anything else. However, I would add, though, Lennar is not here, and I don't know that they were notified. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. I'd have to do a little digging to make sure, because we kind of hurried up to get this through, and we're in conversations with them. But I just want to put it out there that I don't know that I didn't reach out for Nick Crow. I want to make sure that nobody else, that could have been part of communication on our part. So just try not to hold that.
My motion stands.
All right. Would you repeat that?
I move resolution 2024-71.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a first, we have a second. Move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 4-0. It passes. All right. D, Resolution 2024-76, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving surplus of certain equipment at the utility yard located at the Williston Airport, deemed unusable by utility staff, approving a sealed bid action for said surplus equipment, authorizing an appropriate parties to sign any documents required to effectuate same on behalf of the City of Williston, and providing effective date. Utility Director Jonathan Bishop.
Yes, this is about the surplus at the airport, and Danny Wallace wants to speak about it, so he's up.
Danny Wallace, Logistics, City of Williston. This is older equipment that we've had out there that's been there for years, and as you can see in the photos, it's old lawnmowers, everything else, and the old van. I mean, this is just equipment that we no longer use. It's deemed unable to fix it. It's just not feasible to fix, and it will go out all being sold as salvage. Any questions?
So you're going to get rid of all of it that's there. That's
all that junk that is out there is going to be sold. Yes.
Okay.
And it's one seal bid for all.
It's one seal. This is actually attached to a resolution back in 2023 that we tried selling the equipment individually and it didn't sell. So this is all going as one large sale.
Is it a sealed bid?
It's a sealed bid. Let me explain. A sealed bid went out for everything that was out there, and it was shown. Then it was, as I went back to look at the old resolution, some of these items were not mentioned on there, and I'm bringing it back so I felt I needed to bring this back to you to show that this equipment is also part of that to be sold as a sealed bid. We already put out a sealed bid on all the equipment, and we've received those bids back. So this is on something I should have brought forward earlier, but I just did not realize that it wasn't on that old resolution, like the old lawnmowers. And so, any questions on that?
So you've got the bid already. You just need our permission to proceed.
I just need permission to add these to the sale.
Okay.
And
all right.
This will help us clear out a lot of area at the airport, which is kind of unsightly at the moment, out there by the pit. And this will help us get it all out. And we're saving money because the bidders are having to pick all this up themselves. We don't have to haul it away. So.
And in the future, we'll be quicker about getting rid of.
I'm sorry.
So in the future, we'll be a little quicker with getting rid of salvage stuff.
I believe we will. I mean, this is, we've been trying to sell it. It went up twice out on some of the auction sites, and it did not go. Nothing was offered on any of it, so it just came around to the point that we listed all as salvage and sell it all as one.
Okay, very good.
And to answer your question, yes, we're trying to clean up all old equipment, just anything that we have that's no longer usable to the city. I'm working with utilities to do that, and we're hopefully get a lot of this out, sold, and in the near future, other items.
Very good. Thank you.
I
Thank
move
you.
resolution 2024-72.
I second.
Any more discussion? All right, seeing none, move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 4-0. Resolution, item E, resolution 2024-73, a resolution of the city of Williston, Florida, approving the amendment and extension of the city of Williston solid waste franchise agreement for the waste hauling services between the city of Williston, Florida and GFL Solid Waste Southeast LLC, authorizing appropriate parties to sign any documents required to execute such amendment on the behalf of the city of Williston and provide an effective date. City Manager Terry Brevard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we do have a representative from GFL, so if I could maybe get him to come up and introduce himself real quick.
Swear and just introduce.
No.
My name is Kevin. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm the general manager for GFL Environmental right here in Gainesville, Florida. And I just want to say, first and foremost, we've been a partner with the city since 2021. We appreciate the partnership that we do have, and it's our intent and hopefully the expectation of the city to be able to extend that.
So I'll just have Kevin remain at Dice, and I'll kind of talk about some of the things that we've done and looked at. So in your packet, I've given you, I think, 5 different attachments. One is the resolution, which is 2024-73, which is the resolution we're here tonight to extend the contract that was dated, which is also in your packet, from May 18th of 2021 for an additional 5 years. And that's what the contract provides, is 3 5-year extensions. So nothing more, nothing less. And that's one of the options that we have, is to extend it. We have met with GFL and have been through quite a bit of discussion with them on how we can streamline our processes to make them better, and in ways that I can save money for the city and staff. And I will tell you that they've been very good at working out those processes. As you know, one of them has been how complaints or concerns are made, and basically, citizens call here, rightfully so. We've worked out a way for them to be forwarded either directly to or us as an intermediary to a permanent line at GFL that we've been told will be answered by humans.
By human beings, yes.
Yeah.
In Gainesville, Florida.
That
not Indiana or Missouri or
Push
anywhere else.
1 to be transferred to 2, so that you
Yes,
can push 3 to be transferred to 6.
It irritates me as
If
well.
you know
Yes,
the
sir.
option number.
This is the verbiage we've worked out is GFL City of Williston. How may I help you? And so it'd be along those lines. And the other issue that we had that we were looking at was, how do I capture some of my money back on some of the staff time that we're spending on working on reconciling the bills. I will tell you that GFL has customers that they reconcile the bills. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here is that we know the number of bills that we have, right? And we take the bills and we reconcile it against their counts. And I don't really want to have to say this all the time. It comes back in our favor, right? So they're doing a little more work for free. And so the process that we worked out was that we are a pass-through, as it is with any other account that we have with them. So we will take our billing and say, look, this is what we owe you. We know our billing because our customers know, and they work on getting cans and dumpsters added to the account. And unfortunately, a lot of times for GFL, some of those numbers, maybe they're picking up 2 canisters and they're only being charged for 1. And that's what we're finding. So they're agreeable to us sending it to them and letting them work it out. And then they have so many days to send it back and say, no, we have a problem here with this. I will tell you, I also included in here, there's a CPI increase that can and will, I guess, will probably happen in October, depending on consumer price index in
September.
Yeah.
So yes, sir. It will be October 1st.
Yeah, October 1st. So in all likelihood, there will be an increase based on the CPI. And there's no way for me to do this any cheaper. There's no way for me to lean out the staff anymore. I've done it all. This is directly a pass-through from us to them. And it's an agreement that we signed, like I said, in 2021, which the goal then was to come up with the most cost-effective way, to provide this service to the citizens at a certain amount of money. We don't make any money off of it. I don't know what GFL makes, but it couldn't be a whole lot. Maybe it is. We are in further discussion with yard waste disposal, but that's a totally different thing. We're currently taking it and burning it. We may be able to, that is in the contract. There may be a way that we can resolve that issue. So I will tell you this, that, I didn't have any dealings with any other solid waste, but I can tell you dealing with GFL, dealing directly with Kevin, and it's nice to have that phone because I can pick him up anytime I want to and call him, and we get our problems resolved right away. Sometimes we have to peel back the onion a lot to figure out what the problem is, but we always are able to solve it pretty quick. So my recommendation here tonight, is that we move forward with the extension. Would I love to see a shorter time frame? Sure. But the contract says 3-5 years. That's really good. And Kevin, I'll go back to you if I left anything out.
You did a great job. I appreciate it.
All right. No
You're a lot nicer here than on the phone, but it's okay.
How much you paying him?
None.
No.
Not at all.
I'm getting the same deal with the fire.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's 3 5-year extension. So in 5 years, we'll be back here doing the same thing and adjusting whatever we might need to if
If
so
you see
if
fit.
not.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And it does say with successful negotiation. So I will tell you this: if I sat down with GFL and they brought me back, or we were discussing things that they were not willing to do for the city, that would not be successful negotiation, and we would be having a different conversation. Well, at least
I know that when I've called you for a couple issues, you guys do get it done in a quick, timely manner. My only thing, if I would have a complaint, is when they go by a residence and they pick up some yard waste, branches, stuff like that. Some of that stuff will fall out the back of the truck, and they get right on the truck and then leave, and then there's, some of that debris still laying in the road where they dumped it.
Yes, sir. And again, we're not perfect. But when those instances do happen, please feel free to reach out to staff. I will have the guys go back. But I will say this: I'm a realist as well. As containerized as that stuff can be at the curb, the less you'll get some of that residual that's left behind. So it's just a work in progress. But if there's any time that you see that it's beyond what you feel is acceptable, just give us a call, and I'll have the crew come back.
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
I just want to say, I live in a place where there are lots of trees, and I put out a lot of yard waste, and I have always,
I know he's waving at you.
Yeah.
It must not be
Blame
working.
him.
Don't look at me. He's waving at
You just saved her.
Maybe the show brought Sammy.
I put out a lot of yard waste because I have lots of trees. And your people, I have watched them because they rake up They do a very good job of loading the trucks, and they're pleasant. If you say hello to them, they actually talk back. I have no problems with the service that I have received from your company.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That means a lot. I'll pass those sentiments along. Really do appreciate it. Really do.
So if there are no further questions, there may be, but I will tell you, because I've given you so much additional reference material, just so we're clear, the resolution's what I need approved, which is 2024-73, which then gives the authorization of the city council president to approve the extension, which is the next document.
Okay. All right. Any other city council questions or anything? All right. I'll entertain a motion for resolution 2024-73.
Motion that resolution 2024-73 be approved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Second. All right. Well, we'll move to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Now the fun. All right. We are going to be in an open public hearing. Will be letter F. This is the second reading of ordinance 2024-725. An ordinance of the city of Williston, Florida, amending the city of Williston Land and Development Regulations, amending section 44-12, non-conforming lots, non-conforming uses of land, non-conforming structures, non-conforming characteristics of use, and non-conforming use of structures and premises, amending section 61-172, permitted principal uses and structures, amending section 60-179, maximum floor area ratio, amending section 60-180, maximum lot coverage by all, impervious surfaces, amending section 60-182, minimum off-street parking requirements described herein, providing servability and providing an effective date. Second reading of ordinance 2024-724, an ordinance of the city of Williston, Florida, relating to amendments to the City of Williston Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Map for the City of Williston Land Development Regulations, amending the future land use map of the city's comprehensive plan, and amending the official zoning map of the city's land development regulations pursuant to the applicant by LMB Investment Group LLC for tax parcel number 04866000000, changing the future land use classification of the designated property from the public (county) to agricultural (A) tax parcel number 04866000000, changing the zoning of the designated property to agricultural. All right. Okay. All right. Has there been any council members had any ex parte conversation with the applicant? This includes site visits, if any.
I haven't been to this site, but I went to the Fluent site in Salt Lake City. On Friday of last week.
Okay. Will there be any applicant, staff, witnesses speaking to the matter? Okay.
If you're going to
If
speak,
so,
that means stand up.
Yep. If you're going to speak, stand up so you can be sworn in.
Even if you think you might.
All right.
Do we have all the names or do we need to go around? Okay. All right, everyone raise your right hand, please. Oh, okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay.
All right, there were the two gentlemen in the red shirt over here and the gray shirt here. Latricia, did you get them? The gentleman in the red shirt, will you state your name? We have all the other names, we're just not.
Could you repeat them on the microphone for the record?
You're really testing my memory. 4 whole names that were just spoken more seconds ago.
Leandre James Sr. and Mr. Robinson. I didn't get the first name.
Edward Robinson.
There you go.
You have to tell me before you test me like that next time. Sorry. I didn't study.
All right. If any exhibits, diagrams, photographs, similar physical evidence referred to during the testimony, or would you like the council consider, you must be marked the identification and kept by the clerk for 30 days until for appeal has expired. Staff's opening statement. We'll now hear from the staff.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're going to start today with ordinance 2024-725. This is simply a land development regulation amendment talking about agricultural zoning. The proposed text was initiated by the application received by L&B Investments LLC to update the City of Williston's Code of Ordinances to amend the uses in ag zoning to make it more feasible to conduct business in current times. The request made sense for us, for the city. The planning department saw the ag LDR, and we decided it wasn't actually made for us. It was sort of copied and pasted for somebody else. And the changes will improve the code for all ag properties in the city limits. Specifically, we're talking about 4412, which includes annex properties, 60-172, which updated the buffers, 60-179, which updated the maximum floor area ratio, 60-180, which updated the maximum lot coverage, 60-182, which updated the minimum off-street parking requirements, and we added 60-183, which applied to activities involving cultivation, processing, or dispensing of marijuana.
Okay. Does the council have any? Do you have any witnesses?
No, sir.
Okay. Please hear that. All right. Applicant's opening statement.
Hi, Jimmy Gooding, 1531 Southeast 36th Avenue, representing the applicant. Ms. Ballou, are we going to do them separately this time, or are we going to talk about both the zoning and the LDRs?
So I guess we can leave it up to council. I believe that we've started as if we're going to do it as we did last time, both all at the same time. But if the applicant would prefer, staff would prefer, we're happy to.
No, in fact, I think it's easier for the public if we do them all at once. These are kind of technical distinctions between the LDRs and the zoning. And if it's okay with y'all, I'd like for everybody to go ahead and let's do our whole thing. And I don't know if y'all want to hear Laura speak on the zoning and comp plan before I get up here, but I just want to make sure it runs smooth as it can.
I've got no problem with leaving it as both, running them as both.
Okay. Running them at the same time or separate?
Yes, sir. Same time.
Okay.
He read them both together, so we're considering them. both
Okay.
at the
Do
same
y'all
time.
want Laura to talk about this comp plan and the zoning, or do you want me to just go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm not going to take up a lot of y'all's time tonight. We've been through this process since April. We've been before y'all. This will be the 4th time unofficially, the 3rd time officially. It had a first reading several months ago, followed by a second reading that had to be postponed because of the snafu on the ad. But issues were raised that night, legitimate issues that we have sought to address, and I think we have addressed them. I'm, again, being brief. This is an issue that the city has been struggling with for years. It involves a former middle school site. I really liked the discussion at the last meeting. I didn't know all the history of it. I learned quite a bit about that. Being from Ocala, I didn't know it. And it's apparent, though, that this is a problem that the school board created for y'all by more or less abandoning the school without a real plan. Now, the city was given the opportunity to buy it for $1, but at the time, you didn't have the money to do anything with it.
We didn't have $1.
I'm sorry, you could have bought it, but you wouldn't have had the money to turn it into something worthwhile. So the question becomes, what should happen with this school? Went through several, and Corey spoke fairly eloquently last time about what happened with the building, the falling into disrepair, vandalism, etc. Now it's been annexed, and so y'all's job is to figure out what land use and zoning category do you want to give it. You're supposed to give it one now that you've annexed it, and you have several choices. And I think we talked about them, that this is the best one. You don't want commercial, which would allow retail and other business uses in the middle of the residential neighborhood. You may or may not want housing there. You could do residential if you had somebody that wanted to come in and develop it. That's always a possibility. And so then you've got the choice of ag. Now, this is not a typical ag operation, as we've conceded, but this is the zoning category that local governments assign marijuana grow houses to, because it is related to the cultivation of an agricultural product. It is the least obtrusive, the least impactful, the least severe zoning category that y'all have and that most other local governments have. What we did with the LDRs is we proposed some changes that benefit all ag, actually benefit all annexed properties. For the properties that are non-conforming under the city code but conforming in the county code, when you annex them, they become non-conforming. That benefits all annexed properties. We've suggested some changes that originally were designed for all ag, but that at y'all's suggestion, we limited to primarily this property. And then the most significant change we proposed is the new code, which absolutely prohibits dispensing or processing marijuana on this site. So the LDRs are designed in part to enable us to use the property, but also to protect the residents against the most vocal concern, which most of them expressed, which is processing of marijuana. I hope that y'all would share what y'all saw on the site visit. I wasn't there, but I think I hope that it showed what my client has been saying, that this use would be the least impactful use because we intend to preserve those existing buildings. And with the type of operation that we have, you really won't know what's going on inside the building when you're driving past it. Instead, it will look like a renovated Williston Middle School site. Now, in the future, they may, build new buildings and whatnot, but at least initially, it's going to look like it does now with a significant capital investment. It will be a place where people can work. It will be a place that is secure. It will be a place that has hiring restrictions that are among the most strenuous that I've ever seen in the statutes. This is going to be a safe place to work. It's going to be safe, impactful in the neighborhood. I understand that there are some residents that don't want this use, or particularly quasi-business use in the neighborhood, and I respect their opinions. The fact of the matter is, though, that we've been at this for a pretty good while now. We've tried to accommodate all the concerns, and the question keeps coming back, if not this, what? If not this, what? This looks to me, of course, I'm paid to say this, but it looks to me like the least impactful operation that still is a contributor to the neighborhood that y'all could have. It's finally something to use that property with. We look forward to hearing the comments tonight. I look forward to addressing them to the extent I can, and I appreciate y'all's patience with us so far. I'll be happy to answer any questions, specific questions you have, but y'all have heard from me enough, I think. All right. Mr. Mayor, you don't have to shake your head quite that vehemently.
I feel like a whipping boy. I probably deserve it.
Council, you got any questions?
I don't know if Miss Latricia has our pictures or not. You have our pictures loaded? I will say we left here at 7:30 in the morning on Friday. There were 4 of us. We took the utility director, Mr. Bishop, the city manager, Miss Latricia, and I. We left, like I said, at 7:30. We got there around 11:30. Number one, they opened the gate because we called and asked them to let us in. The front gate, that picture is not showing the front gate very well. It's to the other side of that large tree where you see that driveway at the far end. We went inside. I will say that it was, at this point, and of course what you asked us to do was go see what we saw and smell what we smelled. So that's exactly what we went there. Those were our marching orders. Go see what we saw and smell what we could smell. And come back and tell you what we saw. Again, they let us in. We parked. They met us there. They only let us into the lobby. I will say I smelled nothing outside. When I went into the lobby, I could smell growing plants. It didn't necessarily smell like marijuana, but it smelled like green plants, very green. I will say these pictures, that little dog right there about ate me up, I can tell you. I got out of my car to take a picture, and he was standing in front of me before I knew it. These are some residences that were across the street. They got a lot of vegetation you can't really see. They had swing sets. They had an above-ground pool. There were 2 or 3 different. You saw the other residences too. If you could go back a little bit. That's another private residence right there. Those were housing that was right across the street. Evidently, they rent their building. They don't own it. And the person that has these residences across the street also owns that property. And this is, like I said, directly, it's separated nothing by 2-lane road in the middle of nowhere, just like we have here. There was a produce shed at the other end. That's what you saw on the other end of there. I don't know if anybody else, those were some other housing that was at the far end. And we just pulled up to a gate and got out and I took a picture. It's not that it's part of it or anything. It's just, I was trying to show you that there are residences on 3 sides, actually. Anybody else that went have anything to say?
Well, maybe you could talk about.
It was very secure. I will say there are cameras in the parking lot, inside, everywhere. They actually took our driver's license from us when we went inside. They kept it until we came back and left. Those, and Jonathan and Terry could probably tell you more. Those, if you can pull that in a little closer, those are some of the air handlers that they have. And even the air handlers that they have, those things that are coming out of the building, they're on both sides of the building. And they were actually covered with foam so that none of the smell penetrated through it. I tried to look at the mulch that they talked about, the coconut fiber that he told me that it was mixed with other mulch, which is, I don't think, something we realized here. We thought it was regular, what was the coconut fiber that was poured out. But they told us there it was actually mixed with other mulch and petrified together in very small pieces. They actually stored it in a dumpster, and it had been picked up on Wednesday, so we were unable. They stand in line to get it, and somebody had come to get what was in that dumpster on Wednesday. So when we were there on Friday, there wasn't any to look at. I actually wanted to. Of course, they wouldn't let me take pictures of it because I was inside the fence. They told me I could not take pictures on the inside of the fence. That's why all the pictures I took are on the outside. Because I informed them I was going to take pictures when I got outside, and we did.
So the other thing I'll add is that we stood at the far corner with the wind in our face, looking at the building. The building we estimate right there, that corner. We pulled in. Matter of fact, we pulled in that little driveway right there, and we left. And basically, with the wind in our face coming across the building, there was absolutely no smell whatsoever. We went to the opposite end, same thing, building's about twice the distance, wind not in our face, so it's in our favor, and again, once again, no smell. I will tell you that I had an opportunity to break off from the group because I saw the manager there, and I had an opportunity to corner him.
It's the cop in him.
Yeah.
He was interrogating them.
Yeah, and had a chance to talk to him. And my questions to him were, okay, well, how do you hire your staff? You know, who do you hire from? Where do they come from? You know, and his responses were, look, we hire all local, and we hire anybody that shows up that thinks that they just want to do something other than be in the agriculture business. They weed them out pretty quickly. So, you know, if somebody who's always fantasized about growing marijuana, they don't last long, right? Because that's not what this is about, and they don't like the hard work. So they do promote within. I will tell you that. One of their persons that they first hired, like in 20 or 20, whatever it was basically, and I'm sorry, sir, I don't know the guy's name, but he had moved up into senior management. And from all the way from walking in the door to I need a job. And so that was my biggest concern is where do you get your employees from? And how do you move them up into the company? And they definitely did that. And that's the same thing. Now, I have a poor sense of smell. I've had it all my life. But I at no time, other than being in the building, smelled anything. And I at no time on the outside of the building smelled anything. But I thought it was important to get that management aspect and the employee process in there. So I don't.
I think Latricia told me the first thing she smelled was the orange trees, because there were in one part as we approached the building, there were orange groves, and they weren't necessarily in bloom, but she's got a very sensitive nose, and that's the first. I couldn't smell them at all, but she could.
What about the health department inspections? Was that health department and the cameras?
I can answer that one.
Oh, yeah.
They told us that every quarter that the health department comes and check the cameras that are outside the building or inside. And if there is a blind spot, they make them put cameras up so it can be more visible.
Mr. Bishop.
So the only thing I'd like to talk about is the utility factor of it. So when I go on site, utilities interest me, so that's exactly what I look for. So in the picture where you're talking about the air handlers, you're talking about the foam, but what you didn't bring up was the 3 different levels of the purification and the amount of money they're spending in the carbon filters, which I thought was pretty impressive. The lady we talked to, we were basically drilled her, for a better lack of words, about the hurricanes and the safety factor of that and the redundancy that they have. And then all their utilities are double and triple backed up. So I just thought, for the level of investment, and I'm not saying I'm for or against, but the level of investment they put into that for redundancy was actually really impressive.
They had huge generators.
Yes.
That one of those white ones that you see right on the other side of that piece of orange equipment, that is a generator.
But it wasn't the only generator.
Yeah,
so
there
that's
were
what
lots of them.
So that's all I'm trying to say as far as utilities factor of it shutting down and catastrophic this, that, or the other. It was actually pretty impressive.
And she said when the hurricane came through that there are greenhouses on the back of this building that they had that were also completely enclosed, and the air was also contained within them. They had a separate fence around them altogether, and even those greenhouses were not affected by the hurricane that came in at Fort Myers area. Actually, it came in pretty much on top of them.
But you're talking about defenses. Don't forget about the card readers plus the.
Yep.
I'm not remembering the word I'm looking for, but the that's not biometric. Anyways, they can see you when they come in. It's something, one of the alarms they talked about, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Can you help me with that? But anyways, cameras pick you up. If the cameras don't pick you up, the laser beams, you break the laser beams and they pick you up. So the redundancy and the security was pretty neat.
Security.
Yeah, exactly what it is, a motion detector, but it was above my head and how to describe it. It was actually impressive. Yes.
Mr. President, I think Chief Rose had a question.
Yes, sir. He can stick his hand up where I can see.
You can
We can fix that.
I only have one security.
what-
See, I told you I had to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Chief
All right.
Earls, can I say something before you start?
Sure, sir.
So talking about the security, Deborah, if you remember, all their security are ex-law enforcement from one level
Oh, yeah.
to another.
That's exactly what he told me.
And then the head security guy was, I forget the level, but he was CIA, FBI, or something to that effect.
Yep.
That's it. I'm sorry, Chief.
That's not my concern. My concern was, you spoke earlier that they would only allow you in the lobby. And I think in the last presentation, Mr. Jimmy talked about the clothing and the contamination of the plants and stuff like that. So my only question would be, if there is an emergency, whether it be medical or whether it be law enforcement involved, how do we get in the facility if you can only go in the lobby? I knew Jimmy would jump up and answer that question.
Sure, they
for
let
me.
you in.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, firstly, I don't know because I don't know that issue's come up, but I can tell you this, and I think my client enforced this when he talked about why they're not armed. We put life over property. They're just as they're not going to shoot anybody for trying to steal weed, they're not going to keep law enforcement or emergency personnel from going in there and doing what they're doing. I haven't cleared that with my client, but I guarantee you that's what his answer would be if he was here. Any conscientious business person would tell you the same thing.
That was my only question, because we talked about it so much in the last meeting about contamination of the plants and, you know, the employees having to put on gloves and masks and all this type of stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that if for some reason I know, and I told Ms. Deborah this, you were going to say we've never had that happen. But if it was to happen, I just wanted to know the process for my people of how we need to respond
You
to
go in there and do what you want to do, and I will talk to my client and make sure that's accurate, but I can promise you it is. No responsible business person would take any of it.
And I would say the only reason they let us in only in the lobby is because we had no business in there. If we had had business, if we had been a vendor, they would have directed us to the right place for that vendor to go. And because the electronic system that we actually signed in and gave them our name and our phone number and our email, and like I said, handed over our driver's license that they kept until we came back and got it after we were through. Because we were probably on the property hour and a half, maybe, by the time we walked around the entire building and asked 40 million questions of everybody that we saw. But we had no business inside. That's why they didn't let us inside. If we had had business inside, I'm sure they would have let us in.
Have you ever had that incident, sir? Jimmy?
No, I don't know the answer to your question, Chief, but I can just tell you that as responsible as this guy's been, if y'all need to get in there, you can get in there.
Excellent. That's all I needed.
Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to ask a question. Are y'all going to let the city manager get away with saying that they weed people out that go there to grow? I've been over backwards to keep from doing that, and he got away with it. It looked to me like I'm so astonished that y'all let him get away with that.
We looked for ways to crucify him. My question is one I believe I know the answer to, but the place where the city manager and Councilor Jones and the others went to, that was a processing plant.
No, sir.
No, it was exactly the same type of plant
That's why we chose that one.
Yes.
The processing plants were closer.
Yeah.
We could have gotten to the processing plants in 2 hours.
This is only a growth. That was only a growth
It
facility.
took us 3 hours and 15 minutes to get to this one.
Yeah, we wanted them to see, and they wanted to see that which exactly what we're proposing.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And let me just add that there were no markings anywhere. As somebody said earlier, there's no great big marijuana leaf plastered on the wall. There's no name of the company on the outside. It just looks like a warehouse with a fence around it. That's what it looked like.
Council have any more questions? No? All righty. Would anyone in the public like to speak on this matter? Raise your hand. If so, stand up. Be sworn in.
I think they already got sworn in.
Yeah. Please state your name, sir, your residence.
Albert Fuller. I'm still from Williston.
So,
I have a concern, and I'm not sure it's been addressed properly. The concern is that we have been more concerned about the company than the future impact on the public. The fact is that I don't have any concern about the operation the way it's been described. My concern is if they choose to leave, and when they choose to leave, it's still an agriculture property. And and being an agriculture property, future expansion or changes in operation may be made. That's my concern. Has nothing to do with what they're claiming that will happen at that property now. And I made the proposal earlier that we look at special exception rather than look at just zoning it agriculture, no restrictions. And a special exception would protect the residents for the future, because if they decide to cease operation, then the next client needs to come before this council before a decision is made and before they can do something. And that's my concern, and I think it's a reasonable concern for the people who live in the surrounding area. Now,
I think we've already established that it can't be done by special exception.
no.
We had that at the last meeting.
You said that the special exception would not protect the property value, but that is a concern that the buyer has. It's not a concern. It can be done by special exception, but they're concerned about if they choose to sell, that the price would be reduced, and that would be the concern they would have. But I don't see why it cannot be done by special exception.
Mr. Mayor?
I think we need to hear from the attorney.
City Planner Laura Jones.
Yes, sir.
My understanding as you were going through this was that you said that our land use needed to be updated, and that this actually helped all the other parcels that were annexed and not just focusing on this one. Is that accurate?
That is, and it will help other either annex properties or ag properties. Mr. Fuller's concern about a special exception is a little bit different because we don't have that special exception in our land development code.
It doesn't exist in our code.
So we discussed possibly
we already
changing
established
that code, but it was not at the will of the council to do that. So.
But my question isn't to do with this particular property.
I understand your question.
Okay, and I want to be sure I understand your answer. You're saying that this code change would be beneficial to other properties in our area.
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Baloo?
Yeah, just to clarify, Laura and Deborah said it exactly correct, which is not that we can't do it via special exception. We would have to do a code change, make special exception for this an option, and go about that route. We did talk about that. That was sort of the baseball soccer analogy that we discussed, and that was not where this council decided to go. So not that we can't do it. It's just not the path that we're currently on. And we would also have to do a code change in order to make that possible.
As the code stands, there is no special exception for this purpose.
That is correct. But all of these changes were not there as well before we started this process. And so we've gone through a lot of changes to code rather than make a simple change to create a special exception for this purpose. And so I'm still saying a special exception would be appropriate if we're more concerned about the future well-being of the residents in that area, as opposed to the concern over what the property value will be if they choose to cease operation.
And I'm okay because we're doing it as ag. If we were doing it as commercial, I'd be screaming my head off up here. But because I went to the property appraiser and he satisfied me, telling me that the lowest zoning that I could give it to protect the neighborhood was ag, I have no problem with that. And I agree with the mayor. All the non-conforming issues that we have discussed in here are definitely going to improve our code.
I say that probably if it were not done this way and not intending to appease a particular potential purchaser of the land, that there may have been other changes to improve the code. But this code was written specifically to help this client.
And we put everything in there everything we asked them to do, they have done.
And Mr. Fuller, I think it's inappropriate for you to suggest that this council is doing things to appease anybody.
Yeah.
This council is focused on trying to do what they think is best for the community, not to appease. So please don't use that type of language against this council, sir.
I'm sorry, but I'm not retracting what I said. I'm saying that this code was written as a result of this request. And I'm still saying the same thing. It was written as a result of this request, and it would have been simpler if we had chosen the path by which we have a special exception, such that anyone else that uses this property has to come back before this council if they want to do something different.
But we've restricted it so much that they can't do anything different.
Expansion.
Well, expansion they can do because they own another 10 acres.
And the expansion, what will it be? And it will not be those buildings.
Mr. President, I hate
It's
to
up to
interrupt,
them.
but the 5 minutes is up for this public comment.
Ms. Jones? Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. President. The code was changed because the property had a use, which was a school, and the zoning had different regulations, which was public in the county. And we brought it in, and we want to use the school buildings, and they will not meet ag the way that they're set up. And it's just buffers and parking. You know, we've talked about these things. They aren't a big change. But we wanted to do this for all properties that we may annex in so that we don't have to necessarily take buildings down to use a property. So really what was happening here was we had buildings that were a little bit too close to the property line for the ag use that we had in our LDR, which, like I said, was sort of antiquated because it wasn't really a municipal ag. It was sort of written for a big, huge watermelon farm or a big, huge peanut farm. It wasn't written for these smaller 20-acre facilities that would have this, like, buildings and offices and things like that. So it wasn't written just for this client. This was just a good opportunity for me to work with a good land development lawyer to make the updates that needed to be made.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with council? All right, closing statement by applicant. Or, sorry. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Bernard.
Now, we went through all this development and code change and all that stuff. And you also knew that this marijuana deal was going to, Now, as it reads, according to the after 1 year, they can do whatever they want to do. Am I not right? Can you show me?
We addressed that at the last meeting as well. That's a totally different section of the Right to Farm Act.
Are you going to give him unrestricted agricultural exemption? That's what
No,
the council is planning on doing?
There are quite a few restrictions in the land development code
we gave everything we asked them for, we put in there. Everything we wanted is in there. Can't grow, you can't dispense, only for properties over 15 acres.
And some of the changes that we made do not include livestock and the poultry raising, which would mean that it wouldn't be able to be on that property because those changes aren't being made for those kinds of uses.
Right, I agree.
Only for growing.
Okay, I agree that if it's only for growing, if that agricultural exemption includes the language in there for only for growing,
it does.
You know, I have no problem with that. Problem. Big. Now, when you went to visit this other facility, when the waste, it was gone, so you don't know what it smelled like once it gets wet. You know?
I think it was perfectly fine.
I said it wasn't there.
I don't think they would take it if it wasn't.
Well, I don't know, but anyway.
And like I said, you don't have to take it if you don't want it. But I think you're going to want it.
I'm saying, I'm trying to speak on behalf of the citizens, but not of only just East Williston. Let's get off this East Williston thing. Williston.
We never bring up East Williston.
Well,
People
no,
in the audience do.
No, but hey, when you come here and you look and you see mostly black people here, and like I said the last time, there are people stay out there. It's going to affect more than people just on that side of town. It's going to affect people as it comes this way. And my only concern, and most of the people only concern, is that it's restricted to strictly growing. And odor. It is. Do you have a odor? Anything about odor control? Is anything in it about odor?
We have other regulations for odor, noise, traffic. So there are other ways for us to deal with that if it happens. But we have. I mean, I haven't, but it looks to me like City Council and other staff members have diligently gone to other properties to make sure there isn't odor. We have done some research online to see.
I mean, it was 7 hours. That's not counting stopping for lunch. It was a long way, but we went because y'all wanted us to go, and I felt like I needed to do that. And I'm glad I did.
I respect you going. The only thing I want the council to remember is that let's don't degrade the people in that area's life. Now you got a project right next to our garden right in front of them. I'm not right that a developer wants to develop it, put 400 some units out there or something.
I don't know anything about it. It's in the county, so I don't know.
Well,
it's not going to happen in the county, so it would have to be annexed in, and I've never heard of it either.
Well, okay.
Yeah, we haven't heard. Somebody else mentioned that last time you were here, but I've not heard anything about apartments.
Okay, all right.
We
anyway,
need them.
I'm saying. I'm saying that all I ask is for the council to do due diligence.
I have.
You know what I mean? Let's respect the people of Williston.
I do. That's why I went. And I'm looking forward to starting with 50 jobs and hoping for those 200 like he promised.
All right. Closing statement by applicant.
Mr. Fuller knows a lot more about agriculture than I do, but I did grow up in Ocala on a small farm. But his concern is, what if we don't make it there? And it's a legitimate concern. Let's talk about the two possibilities. Either it goes to another marijuana grower, which is one of the most heavily regulated facilities in the state. I don't see that changing, regardless of what happens in November with the ballot. If y'all remember, even though the people overwhelmingly approved the constitutional amendment, the legislature took very long time to implement it and put some pretty severe restrictions on the use of it. Originally, you couldn't smoke it. This legislature is not going to make their laws weaker for marijuana, at least based on their previous track record, regardless of what happens in November. So if it stays, if the fluid doesn't work out and it goes to marijuana thing, it's still heavily regulated, same requirement. But let's talk about if it doesn't go to another marijuana grower. What's going to happen? You're going to have somebody coming in here wanting another zoning change. And I'll defer to Mr. Fuller, but I'd be astonished if you'd have a farmer pay what this property is going to be worth to come in, spend the money to tear those buildings down so that he can farm it when all the property is available for agricultural use already cleared that you could grow on. I don't think this would make a very good investment for a farmer to come in and grow on it. So if it doesn't go to another marijuana facility, I suspect, or maybe there's some gardens for growing flowers indoors or something like that, which shouldn't be a threat. But I suspect you're going to have somebody coming in here for another zoning change, which y'all can deny or grant.
Very expensive indoor plants with the investment your company is talking about.
It is, but I mean, if they really went under, maybe they could get it at a deal. But any event, so I, with all due respect to Mr. Fuller, I think the concern about what happens if we leave is not well founded. Finally, that's why a special exception is needed. You've got your regular land development regulations to deal with the regular farming, and you've got the state statute to deal with the marijuana part of it, as well as the suggestion we made code that absolutely prohibits the processing or dispensing. So, with all due respect to Mr. Fuller, I think the concern is not well founded and should not preclude the action.
Thank you. Closing statement by staff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Starting with the land development code regulations, the city staff worked pretty hard on these. We believe that these were good all around for this particular property owner or not. We especially like updating our parking, our lot coverage, and applying to activities involving the cultivation, processing, and dispensing of marijuana. If you read section 6183, it's pretty restrictive. If somebody does come in here, they cannot process marijuana on this property. They can't process marijuana in the city of Williston. So it will only be growing plants. The other thing that when we're talking about the lot coverage and the buffers, we have to remember that it excluded cattle and poultry raising. So building close to the property line cannot grow chickens. So it can only grow plants. And that's important because if they do sell it and it does become ag and the way that they retrofit it would be good for chicken raising, this property wouldn't really fit that. They would have to make some serious changes. So only plants is what we're pretty much gonna, what we're doing here with the ag LDR changes. And then, as Mr. Gooding said, there are other options for zoning here. Ag was what the applicant asked for. Ag meets all of our regulations. We didn't want to make it commercial. We didn't want to make it industrial in the middle of a neighborhood. So this worked for us, and we're happy with it.
Okay, thank you. Discussion by council. Anything? Okay. All right. I need I'll entertain a motion for resolution.
I would move ordinance 2024-725 on second reading.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All right. All right. Any other discussion? No. All right. Move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0. All right. And all right. I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of 2024-7. Sorry, got my page.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading ordinance 2024-724.
All right, got a first, got a second. Any other discussion? None. Move to vote. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right, closing the public hearing. Item 6, public participation. This is your second opportunity to address the council. At this time, anyone from the audience can come to the podium, speak for 5 minutes on any topic than what's on the agenda.
If anyone on the Ring Central meeting would like to speak up, unmute your mic, please, and speak up now. No response.
All right. Announcements? Staff?
Yes.
Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I have several announcements. Starting with the first one, Jackie Appling wanted to thank the Parks and Rec staff, the city manager for an excellent job that was done at Cornelius William Park on cleaning of the softball and the baseball fields. Number two, we have a donation box out in the lobby if anybody would like to donate to back to school. We're taking supplies up until August the 3rd. Number three, Music in the Park, July 26th at 7 p.m. The music artist for the night would be Peaches and Kareem. And that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. I would like to thank all of the staff, the police, the fire department, everyone that helped out for July 3rd. I think it was a very successful event, and it could not have been done without the help of everyone. So thank you.
Mr. President, so I appreciate the thank you from Ms. Appling, but I smile because I asked them to do that. That was my involvement. So I appreciate her saying a good job, but without the staff that we have, that's well.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mayor.
I have something very important I would like to say. After the last workshop, it was a long night. The next morning, I had to get up and leave my home at 6:15 to take my wife for surgery. And I apologize for just leaving. I tried to do it quietly, but I got called. I just had to go to bed long enough to get up and take my wife to surgery. That is why I left, and I owe you an apology. I didn't realize the meeting was going to be quite that long, so I thought I could tough it out. But I understand that this council stayed here till midnight. I'm glad I left.
I think we adjourned at 11:15, but yeah, we were
Yeah.
here all night.
Yeah. But no explanation necessary. Got to take care of family. Yep. Any other council? Okay. Next budget meeting be August 13th. Next council meeting will be August 6th. Yes, sir. Yep.
Tricia, will you be sending that out? No, we need enough budget.
Yep. All right. Favorite time of the evening? It is 8:38, and I seek a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.